Carolina This Week with Tim McGinnis.
Good morning and welcome to Carolina This Week. A little bit later in the show, I'm going to show you what Corvettes and dogs mean to one another. But first off, we're going to talk about Alzheimer's disease and an event that's coming up later this week that you might be interested in attending if you or someone you know is suffering from Alzheimer's. Joining me this morning is Stephen Mantell and Natalie Bankowski from the Alzheimer's Association. Thanks for being with me this morning, guys.
Thank you for having us.
The numbers never cease to amaze me when it comes to Alzheimer's. Of course, millions of people in America living with it, but 80,000 South Carolinians have it. By 2025, that number is supposed to go up to 100,000 people. If you don't know somebody who has Alzheimer's, chances are in the years to come, you will know somebody who has it. My father passed away from Alzheimer's disease on Christmas. I know all too well what the disease can do to a family and does to the person who has it as well. So, guys, thanks for coming in and talking about this, and I think you do have a pretty great event coming up this week that can help people who are dealing with this disease.
I'm very excited about this. Stephen is the one that invited Teepa Snow to come and put this program together, but what's so exciting is this is the first time that a series has been done where they're going to talk about things that the person can still do instead of focusing on the things that they can no longer do. So that's very exciting.
Because it's a limiting disease. I mean, there comes a time where you have to shut the doors, put locks on the cabinets. It's almost, I compare it to a part of the disease is to like having a 2-year-old. I mean, you really can't leave that person.
That's exactly how I relate to having another child in the house.
Yeah. Right, right.
It is very difficult. It's very, very stressful for caregivers. And so I'm very excited that Stephen has put this together. And it's free for the community from 5 to 8 next Friday night on the 31st. And then earlier in the day, Stephen has a program for professional caregivers that will offer CEUs, and that is from 9 to 1.
We'll talk about the program a little bit more in a minute or two, and we'll put up a graphic that'll tell you exactly where you can go to find more information. But first, I want to talk about the disease a little bit for people out there who may be wondering if they have it, if somebody they love has the disease. How do you know that Alzheimer's is happening, other than going to see a doctor? What are some of the early signs that something could be wrong? I used to think it was just, I forgot my keys somewhere, or I did this somewhere, but that's not necessarily. Just having slight memory, I think, is just kind of something we all have from time to time.
Well, our brains age right along with our bodies. Our knees, our joints, all that, our brain ages as well. That's why we can walk into a room and forget why we went into the room. As far as losing your keys, the difference between someone that is suffering with Alzheimer's disease and someone that isn't is when you can remember which rooms you were in and you are able to retrace your steps. Someone that has the disease is unable to retrace their steps. But Alzheimer's disease is a very slow, progressive disease. And so if someone wakes up one morning and they're very confused, there's something else that's causing it. It isn't that they just developed Alzheimer's disease overnight. It's really important for people to go, and the doctor has to rule everything else out first, because there are a lot of things that will cause the same symptoms. Medication interaction, certain infections, vitamin deficiencies, they will cause a lot of the same symptoms.
Well, and I remember with my dad, it was probably about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more, that he started telling me, well, I might have Alzheimer's. And he was a physician, but he didn't know for sure. And he started doing crossword puzzles and doing everything that you're supposed to do if you think you're in the early stages. And he was going to see I guess it was a neurologist, or he was seeing somebody that deals with the brain. And they went through that process. And that process took about a year for them to say, it's Alzheimer's. We're pretty sure.
That was a very thorough doctor.
Yeah.
And very impressive. Unfortunately, some people get a diagnosis too quickly, but it is very stressful for a caregiver to care for their loved one. There's a lot of different emotions that they go through. They mourn the loss of the relationship that they had. A lot of times they have resentment and anger and fear and frustration. So we are here to help them at the Alzheimer's Association. We have support groups that we have over 100 around the state of South Carolina. We have several in Horry County and Georgetown County, and we will pay for home care for someone to go and attend a support group meeting. We have a 24-hour helpline that is staffed 24 hours a day, 365 days a year.
And I wanted to get into that kind of the beginning, and then once you get into discovering that you are a caregiver, because at first you don't feel like a caregiver, because the person who has Alzheimer's really can function somewhat. In my dad's case, it was a few years. It can function at a decent level. You know, it wasn't until he got into a car wreck or two, until he started getting lost, taking a walk at night.
They don't recognize it. They don't realize it themselves,
right.
And that's the worst part of it, if you ask me, because you know, they hurt. You hurt their pride. I mean, the disease hurts them, as well as the other family members.
It angers them, and then they take that anger out on the caregiver. And that caregiver is, boy, I think all caregivers should be sainted. I mean, they are really.
The level of frustration goes up with everyone. You know, I mean, like you said, your father walks out the door and doesn't remember. I mean, I've got a client now that actually we've taken her license away from her now, but she drove down the road, forgot how to get back home.
Yeah.
You know, and she felt awkward about it. Having said that, she shortly thereafter forgot about it and wanted to drive her vehicle again.
Well, and you know, and with the caregiver, I think you see the toll that it takes on them, because the person who has it is frustrated, the caregiver's frustrated, but the caregiver at this point becomes the guardian, has to do things, the nasty job of taking the license away, having to really find a babysitter, and you're talking how the association will help out with that, because you really need a break from it. And
Absolutely.
If you're somebody out there caring with somebody with Alzheimer's or dementia, you do deserve a break.
Absolutely. Over 65% of caregivers have a stress-related disorder.
I don't doubt it.
And so we really, really try to help.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about Teepa Snow and the event that's coming up. We'll be right back with more Carolina This Week. Welcome back to Carolina This Week. We're talking about Alzheimer's and an event that's coming up later this week that can help you if you know somebody who has Alzheimer's, if you might be in the beginning stages of it and you want to take your loved one to learn more about the disease you might be afraid that you're getting. This is a great thing. Who is Teepa Snow? She's going to be here to talk to people on Thursday about caregivers.
Well, actually, she does these speeches all the way around the United States. She knows an awful lot about dementia, Alzheimer's. We met her in New Orleans. She did a fantastic show. She got everyone in the group involved, the audience. We thought she would be great pulling her here and for families and professionals. So she's just a great person. You know, she has a good background into it.
I imagine she can give you some tools that you can use if you're going through this, and I know a lot of people are, and the more coping mechanisms I imagine you have, or caregiving, I guess, lessons that you learn, you'll be able to do a little bit better job.
She did a lot with Candy, senior helpers. Candy actually goes out in the field, teaches the caregivers, teaches family members how to communicate with Alzheimer's. We're about to go out and offer it to the fire stations and the policemen. There is a way of communicating with people with Alzheimer's, and a lot of family members get frustrated and they can't seem to be able to communicate effectively with their loved ones. There are manners and ways to help these people, rather than reach across and real quick. You do things a lot more slower. You offer them no different than you would to a scared child.
Yeah, it can be a frightening disease, but it can be manageable. If you're in that caregiving position, this is probably a great resource for you to take advantage of. It's free to the public, and if you're a professional, I believe there is a charge. Let's put up the screen that shows exactly when and where this is taking place. It's going to be at HGTC, the Grand Strand campus. It's on Friday, May 31st. For healthcare providers, which there is a nominal fee, it goes from 9 until 1 p.m. For families and caregivers, it goes from 5 to 8. So if you have to work, maybe you can bug out a few minutes early and make that 5 o'clock start time. Go to your website, carolinalive.com. I'm going to put a lot more information there. So if you want to sign up and you want to go to this, you can. So fantastic. that you guys are doing this, and it's glad to know that there's a resource out there to help people, because a lot more people are going to be needing help as the years tick by.
Well, they can call our 24-hour helpline. It's 1-800-272-3900, and we will help them with any questions or any resources.
All right. Thanks for being with us, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Tim.
Stay with us. When we come back, we'll lighten things up a little bit. I'll show you some cute dogs and some cool cars. We'll be right back.